Hello and welcome to episode 22 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your weekly source for Drunken Magic the Gathering Arena content.
Yeah, we're just regular dudes drinking irregular beer, talking in an unregulated fashion about Magic the Gathering Arena with a particular eye towards the competitive scene, which you could consider to be regulated play.
Yeah, totally. This week we are talking about top tier or Outta Here for historic. So we can talk about the Kaldheim cards and also the historic anthology number 4 that we had covered last week.
We haven't really talked about the historic metagame in a while.
We haven't. Not since like one of the league, the last Zendikar. No, it wasn't Zendikar. It was the first Kaldheim League weekend. Was historic.
Yeah, because there's been no big tournaments.
Yeah, there haven't been any big tournaments with the Kaldheim cards in historic. So,
or at least not since Uro was banned.
Oh yes, that is also a big one as well. But first, each week we both bring a beer, we drink our own, then drink each other's, then rate them on a scale from bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
All right, so this is week 2 of our Blood Brothers Tap Takeover.
Yeah.
So we're both drinking beer from Blood Brothers. It's a local brewery here in Toronto. It's actually really close to where I live. I could walk there. And I brought something super weird this time. This is their Guilty Remnant, which is their stout normally, and I think even a white stout. But this is their horchata version.
Yeah.
So this is a spiced white stout with lactose, and the spices are supposed to be reminiscent of horchata. Which
awesome.
I've never had before, so.
That is so awesome. I'm pretty excited to try that one. But this week I brought their White Lies, which is one of their sour ales. They do a bunch of sours, but this is one of the ones I like quite a bit. It's 6%, and it actually has Riesling grapes in it. Beer wine thing going on, and I'm all about weird stuff like that, so. We went weird.
We went weird.
and I love it. All right, moving right along. Magic news this week. We finally know the official date. We knew there was like some other story stuff going on with Magic, but we finally have the date for the comic book they're actually coming back to, which is April 7th by Boom Comics. It's going to be kind of a story revolving around Ral and Kaya and Vraska. Starting in Ravnica and then moving away from there, which will be interesting because Magic has tried to do comics many times and they haven't done extremely well. So,
and there's something about this like not being canon or whatever.
Yes.
I don't know if that means it's gonna like overtly contradict story pieces, or if it's just like you won't see cards that have these events depicted on them.
Yeah. So I think. Basically, what they were saying is that they started making the comic last summer, and like coming up into this point, they didn't know what was going to happen, I guess. So they don't necessarily have like they're just like we started in a place that you're familiar with, and then we're going to move away from possibly what's happening with the Magic storyline in the cards. So
like Jace might be in 2 places at once or something.
Yeah, maybe like that, or maybe some stuff with Kaya, right? So she's going to be in this, but maybe it's almost in a different timeline than it's not concurrent, I guess, with what's happening in the actual Magic cards. And yeah, so we'll see. Who knows? Maybe it'll make it better because they don't have to. They can be like, it's different because it's the comic book.
Yeah, still very cool though.
It is very cool, and I will probably be reading it. So. Also this week, Twitter tweets. This just still makes me laugh. There's a lot of talk because of the sealed qualifier this weekend. There's just a bunch of talk on Twitter about having people put input on your sealed pools and telling you how to build your deck and whether that is acceptable or not, as far as like I guess cheating goes. Yeah, what's your take on that?
So I kind of thought about this when we were playing Kaldheim Sealed for the Arena Open. I thought it was great for the Arena Open, like just having everyone post their sealed pools and the pros are then interacting with them and excuse me, and then giving advice and stuff like that. It's just promoted a lot of like excitement and good stuff in the community and for limited, and really lets Wizards know, it's one metric to tell them, hey, we want more of this, we like it. But I do understand, like, I kind of felt, maybe this isn't totally fair if I have to play against a deck Ben Stark built every round.
Yeah.
Because that is a big part of Sealed, is making the most out of your pool. Right? That's kind of half the battle. Playing the games is the other half.
Yeah.
And you don't want to make people feel like they have to post their pool in order to, or they're giving up a competitive advantage.
Yep.
Right.
That makes sense. What about if you posted it just to like your friend, right? Like imagine you went to a paper event and you're just like, the same thing happened and your friend's next to you like, hey, what do you think about this?
But that's where it's coming from too, because at a paper event, if it was a PTQ, you would not be allowed to do that.
Oh, okay. I was seeing a lot of stuff that people were saying, oh, the pros will just talk about it in between rounds. Maybe they won't show their deck, but they'll just like discuss things and make
but
changes.
your deck list is locked in, so you can't change your main deck. But you could obviously between rounds talk to people and say, oh, I should sideboard into this deck list or something. But during deck construction, you're not allowed to have your friends come over and give you advice.
Gotcha. So yeah, then in that case, it does feel bad.
But I don't know what you do about it.
Yeah.
Like, other than imposing like a 20-minute timer or something, the way Magic Online does, which I don't think is a good thing. So I think it's just kind of going to be, even if you disagree with it, you might have to accept that it's a necessary evil of competitive sealed events.
Online.
So the solution is make them draft.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great solution. I like that one. Also, talking about that qualifier this last weekend. Hey Jeff, you know what grinds my gears?
What grinds your gears, Zach?
The fact that nobody. Now, I wasn't even part of this, so it doesn't really instill in me directly. But you could not practice sealed for the qualifier on Arena since the Open. That was like the last time you could play it.
So for a few weeks before the event, you weren't allowed to jump into any sealed practice.
Yeah.
If I'm being realistic, I probably wouldn't have played them anyways, but at least now I have the excuse to complain about why I was out of practice.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. A lot of people are saying, oh, they're, to fix it, or it's fine because they can play sealed on MTGO. It's like, that's not the answer. No,
you should not have to go to a different client than the one that the tournament is going to be offered on.
To practice for that tournament. I think that's pretty ridiculous. So that's a big boo from me. Bummer, man.
I don't see a reason not to have it. Like they don't want queue times to get too large to have too many formats going on at once. But if your competitive team who's setting up these Mythic qualifier weekends just chats a little bit more with the or the rest of Arena scheduling team, you could just have sealed go 2 weeks longer when there's a big tournament coming up.
Exactly. Oh, and if you're worried about those times or whatever, just take off one of the other draft formats. They did add War of the Spark to one of the things you could do.
There you go. Cut War of the Spark draft.
Yeah, and then play sealed instead. Seems kind of like a no-brainer to me. But, what are you going to do, right? Yeah. Anyway, going in, straight through these, how was your Arena week?
Well, because I was so out of practice, for not being able to play sealed, I decided to not even play in the qualifier.
Really?
Yeah. So the actual reason is that, and I don't even think I told you this, but it was my mom's birthday this weekend.
Oh.
And kind of last second, my wife and I decided to drive over to Ottawa and surprise her. So we spent the weekend in Ottawa, and it was a really nice weekend, We're just kind of social distancing with them in Ottawa. But the car we rented, so on the Saturday, I woke up, I jumped in and registered, because you can register. There's a 2-hour window to register, but once you register, you can build your deck whenever. Mm-hmm. So I just registered and then said, I'll play this later. And then later that day, kind of around 11 to noonish, we decided to go out just to get my mom a cake. But along the way, our car just breaks down, basically. It's just kind of sputtering at us, and it's just dinging at us, like, check your engine, check your engine. So we pull over on this busy street in Ottawa that's very close to my parents' house, and we check, like, what's going on. And there's no oil in the car. so we can't move it. And we look, and we've just been leaking oil for blocks. Like, the oil is just pouring out of the vehicle. There's pretty much none left. That's why it started to sputter. So we just had to pull it over. Anyways, we call the rental car agency. They call us a tow truck, which takes some time to get there. And then we needed to get a new car because we had to drive back the next 2 days later. And the only place that was open was at the airport, which was, as airports tend to be, pretty far from downtown where my parents live. So then we had to get one of them to drive us out to the airport. Anyway, this expedition ended up taking like 4 hours, which I wasn't expecting. So then when I got home, I haven't played a single match yet, and there's like 2 hours left in the event. And so it's just like, well, there's no chance I'm going to play. What if I have to go 7-2 in matches?
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to do that in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I quickly built my pool. My pool was okay. I built a red-white deck that had Starnheim Unleashed to try to steal games with. And I went 1-1. So in the Mythic Qualifier weekend, I went 1-1.
Hey, that's better than I did. Actually, no, I guess that's even. Like, it's just kind of...
exactly as well as you did.
Yeah. Damn. Well, that kind of... I mean, it sucks that... obviously, that all happened. Fuck.
Yeah.
Car stuff's the worst.
Yeah, it's never happened to me with a rental car, and we've been renting from this place for a long time.
Damn.
So, pretty unfortunate. But to be honest, like, I wasn't that excited for the event. I don't know if I would have done that well, because I just wasn't pumped to play. The past ones I've been, it's like, get up, 10 a.m., and I'm just like, all right, let's do this, And this one, I was like, I'll do it later. And then it turns out I couldn't do it later.
Yeah,
so.
You're like, I get that. Also doesn't seem to be your favorite format, so makes...
Yeah, if it was Zendikar Rising sealed, I probably would have,
not gone to see your mom?
Right, as soon as I was allowed to.
Oh, man. Yeah, anyway, I think we should just jump right into our top tier or Outta Here ranking of historic decks. Kind of. Not really a ranking. We're just talking about decks and whether we like them or not.
It's definitely not a ranking. I have like number 1 chosen, and that's it.
Yeah. So if you're looking for that, you're in the wrong place. Anyway, so basically we have 3 different kind of sections. There's established decks, and then the new kids on the block. I like that, Jeff. Jeff, you made that up. That's fun. And then we also have decks that could be a thing again, or are about to, or haven't yet. Those kinds of things. So, Jeff?
Miscellaneous.
Yeah, miscellaneous other stuff. The little cat picture, if you look at MTG data.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, Jeff, do you want to start us off with the first one?
All right. Let's start off with a layup here.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is sacrifice strategies. These can be either Jund or Rakdos. What do you think?
That's a fucking great deck right there.
Yeah. So it lost nothing.
I
don't think it gained necessarily a ton either, but
no.
I mean, if we're talking just about Kaldheim, it gained lands, which is huge to just make the deck function a bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. Both pathways. If you're playing if you're playing Jund, which is huge, I think, actually, for the deck. And I think it's great. It's still the deck that you have to, like, if you're looking at new decks or gonna try to brew something, it's one of the main ones you have to think about and be like, well, do I have a horrible matchup against
for sure. With Uro gone, this is now the top dog or top cat, if you will.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Because the cat oven.
Oh, right. Yeah. Cauldron for
Right.
Yeah, and until that card gets banned, which it will, but that'll be in a little while, this is going to be the best deck, I think.
Yeah.
Whether you play Jund or Rakdos will depend on the metagame, but it would be hard to convince me not to play this. The only reason I wouldn't is if I'm not confident in the mirror match, because that's a really complicated matchup.
Yeah, I could see that.
And if I expect most people to be playing this, and I know that I don't understand the mirror match, then I might choose something else. But should mention, I guess, that the Star City of Games events this weekend are all historic. So.
Oh, yes. Okay. So there you go.
Hopefully we can give some actionable advice for that.
Maybe. But you should already know that this is top tier quality. We're gonna still see this around. You should play this.
This is the easiest one on the list.
Absolutely. Next, we have goblins. So this deck is came around when Muxus came in Jumpstart, and boys, it's still kicking, still going. I just think this is still a great deck.
This deck is just super powerful, like you're saying, Muxus, right? As long as Muxus is a card, and they give you enough goblins that playing Muxus wins the game, then this is going to be a good deck.
For sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, if they take away all the haste lords, that could neuter the deck, or they take out Muxus or something. But until they do something like that, this deck is going to kind of wax and wane in popularity, because you can hate it. You can just, if you want to beat goblins, you can decide to beat it. The problem is it requires a ton, like 8 sideboard slots or something, that don't end up being that good in other spots. So once goblins goes down in popularity, people start trimming from their sideboard, and then, people like Autumn realize it's the right time to bring it back, and
all that kind of
start winning again. So this deck's just going to always be a thing that you have to be mindful of, as long as those cards are in the format.
Yeah, absolutely. So goblins, definitely top tier.
Top tier.
Great deck. All right, keep moving on. Jeff, what's the next one?
Gruul.
I like
That's all I need to say. Yeah. More Gruul.
Yeah, Gruul. Dang. I mean, you get to play Bone Crusher Giant. You get Lovestruck Beast. You get Embercleave, and sometimes Collected Company.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised I'm not seeing this all over the place, just because, this was one of the most popular decks from the last historic pro event. I don't know, this just an aggro deck where the card quality is super high. I mean, we've seen that be successful in Standard for a long time, so kind of the same thing here, right? You have no bad cards in your aggro deck.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Absolutely. And especially with like all the Burning Tremissaries, and it's just, I think it's just good. I remember like playing against this deck recently, and I agree. I don't think it's extremely popular because I haven't seen it a ton, but it is really great, and it hits really fast. It smashes like Gruul wants to do. But I remember sitting and just being like, I have a removal spell. It's a bunch of 3/3s that are all great. I was like, I don't even know which. It doesn't even matter. Like, I can't kill enough of them. If you don't have a Wrath, like that's another one of those decks that's just going to run you over. Even if you have blockers, it doesn't really matter. It's still going to
for sure
bleed over and get you.
Yeah, the only knock I think I have against this is that it's kind of a creature beatdown deck, and Sacrifice. If we think Sacrifice is the best deck, Sacrifice kind of wants to play against these creature beatdown decks.
Yeah.
So then it might be not as good a meta call, but I think for the time being, if you want to play an aggro strategy, like just pure aggro, this is what you would choose probably.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we giving this?
I will say that this deck is top tier for sure. But again, a lot of these, like any deck that can claim the Firstborn, a lot of the threats in this deck are claimable. So,
especially if you're playing Collected Company.
Yeah, especially with
building your deck to be claimable.
Yeah, it's just basically, Hey, do you want to claim all my best creatures? Because you can.
Yeah.
So that is one of those things, but we're going to see that over and over again, I think. So it's hard to continue to say, hey, can I claim the Firstborn this creature? Yeah, because people play really powerful creatures that are 3 mana value or less. Just trying to get that mana value in there.
Almost said CMC
I
there.
know,
I
did almost. But yeah, Gruul.
Our listeners would have been like, CMC, what the hell is he talking about?
What the hell is CMC? But anyway, Gruul, top tier, definitely. But those are all pretty simple ones. This next one is a bit more interesting to me. Rakdos Arcanist. So this is a deck that I think is super fun. Like, I love this deck. I've played it.
We both just love this deck. I think we've been saying, like, maybe in the first episode of the podcast, I said that how much I loved this deck because Luis Salvato brought it to the
yeah, that's right. I think that's right.
The tournament.
I think it's so much fun. There's a lot of different play lines and so many different choices and things to do with this deck. Obviously, anything with Lurrus means that all your cards are really cheap, so you have a ton of different things you could possibly do, which makes it really great and engaging for the player. Also, making people discard cards is super fun over and over again. I love that.
for sure.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on this deck?
Yeah, so we've both played this deck, right? And what I find is that sometimes, just the way your draw lines up, the deck feels unbeatable. You know, it feels like you're playing like a legacy deck against historic decks,
Yeah.
and everything in your deck costs 1 mana and does 3 things, and everything in their deck costs 3 mana and just does 1 thing. So you're like, man, what are these chumps doing?
Mm-hmm.
But then when your draw doesn't line up, it feels like the most anemic deck. Like you're playing a bad limited deck against a historic deck, you know?
I think that's a good way of putting it. Absolutely.
Well, here's my 2-1. Your go.
Go ahead. I always feel like I like play like my whole hand. I feel like I took care of their hand. Maybe they have a couple creatures on the battlefield. I feel like I'm in control, kind of, except for the fact that they're still at like 17 life because like I've been attacking them with a 1/3, and they're just not far enough down that like they always have time to come back.
Yeah, and they're drawing to like, you know, collected companies and stuff, and you're drawing to young pyromancer
Village rights
with 1 spell.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
so that does make it super hard, and especially in the sideboard games, you're going to get a bunch of like the whole game is just trying to make sure that you get rid of their Grafdigger's Cage or their Lantern or something.
Right, that's the other thing. It's so dependent on the graveyard. It cannot beat any graveyard interaction. And I'm pretty sure it just can't beat Leyline of the Void. Like, there's just nothing you can do. It's not an artifact. You can't Thoughtseize it because it starts in play.
You could play Feed the Swarm. Feed the Swarm.
Okay, you can play Feed the Swarm.
But you'd have to, like, most of those decks aren't, you know, maybe you're running a couple copies in your sideboard and you probably sided in Artifact Destruction instead.
Yeah. Now that's why people are trying, we'll get to Death Shadow a little later, but people are trying Death Shadow here because it makes you less weak to graveyard hate, I guess is the idea.
You have something
I
else
don't
going
think, I just don't think it's enough. Like, it's just a big 1-drop. It doesn't synergize with anything else.
Yeah, I mean, like we'll talk about Death Shadow a little bit later, but yeah, as far as just like straight Arcanist goes, boy, is it fun, and it's, you know, pretty budget. Definitely.
I love this.
Definitely
deck.
worth playing. Yeah. Love it. I would not feel extremely confident bringing it to a tournament or picking it in a fantasy draft anymore for a tournament either, because
we say we've learned our lesson about picking Rakdos, but we haven't. I guarantee it.
It's been so bad. So don't pick Rakdos.
The last thing
I don't know.
Last thing I have here that I wanted to note about this deck is that it's a red-black synergistic mid-range deck. Mm-hmm. And as long as, you know, the sacrifice deck is a thing, that feels like a better version. If you want to play a red-black synergy-based mid-range deck, you should probably look towards the sacrifice decks instead.
It's definitely right. Yep. So anyway, I'm sorry, Arcanist.
So when the cat gets banned, maybe I'll reconsider this. But for now,
Arcanist, you're out of here. Get out of here. Oh, so sad to say. Oof. Anyway, Jeff, do you want to bring us in with this next one?
All right, the next one is actually the deck that won that big historic event we're talking about. Azorius Control. What do you think about Azorius Control?
I love Azorius Control because most of the time when I'm playing against it feels real good.
I was going to say, do you love it because it's a free win?
Yeah, Azorius Control has just never really gotten there. I feel like there's some things that are really annoying about it, obviously, like Teferi and everything. If you know how to play against it, it feels like you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't really get any new tools. It got a pathway from Call Time. And it got Doomscar.
Which is great. Doomscar has gotten me because, you know, sometimes you're playing aggressive and you're like, okay, they foretold something, and most of the time the foretold thing is going to be the counterspell or Behold the Multiverse, even though, like, for whatever reason, those are the cards it always seems like, or the Alrund's Epiphany.
And sometimes you will need the turn 3 Wrath against goblins.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a thing you're going to have to do.
That is helpful for them. And I've kind of got by it, but I'm pretty sure I won all those games, so it's like, okay. Like
getting got by Doomscar does not lose you the game.
Also, because there is that weird balance of, like, we were talking about this before, but like a turn 3 Wrath is great, But like, if you could survive that turn 3 attack and then hit them with a turn 4 wrath, they probably put something else on the board at that point. And you're like, sweet, extra card. So
Yeah, I think the real value in Doomscar is holding up a counter spell the same turn you Doomscar.
yeah. So,
Right, so you like on turn 5 you can hold up to the counter and wrath the board.
exactly. So, which you'll see happen. I have seen a few Azorius control decks are playing the Saga, that the Azorius one that goes and it makes a bird and then Raven's Warning, yeah, and then pulls cards.
I thought you were gonna say Nico for a second. And I was like, oh, I want to see those.
That would be
lists.
cool. I have not seen that. But no, the Raven's Warning. I've seen that just to go, grab something. Besides that, it's just been whatever. I've been like, eh. So
There is a caveat though, right? This deck could be really good under the right conditions.
oh, of course, you need your beer drinking Brad Barkley.
Yeah, if Brad Barkley's playing it, then it's a
Real
great
quick,
deck.
do we have any actual evidence that he was drinking at all, or do we just continually say that?
Yeah, during the match, he took a sip out of a beer mug,
mug.
from something that looked like beer. It could have been apple juice, but I'm just saying it looked an awful lot like beer.
I feel like I didn't see in the mug. I just remember seeing a mug that was just like a coffee mug.
Well, I don't know how high quality his camera was.
That's true. Okay. So maybe.
It wasn't water, though, I don't think.
All right. Well, there you go. Perfect.
Or it would be very concerning if it was water.
Water. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh man.
But I don't think this deck was good when Brad won with it, so I think it's just Brad was good.
I think Brad's just great. So Azorius control.
Out of here.
Out of here. Get out of here. But those are kind of the established decks. Actually, no, this next one, I would consider this established, but we did put it on the new kids on the block.
I mean, we had to kind of put Azorius Control in established because it did win the last major.
Of course.
historic
Yeah,
event,
that's true.
you know?
That's true.
But this deck probably has more metagame share.
Oh, for sure. So this next deck, we're going into our new kids on the block section, the old archetypes with new juice. Great. I love your names. They're perfect. So I'm just going to jump right into this one because, it holds a special place in my heart. Auras. Man, Auras. So great.
I'd like to lead with my point because it's clearly important. It's in bold and it's underlined, and there's 3 exclamation points.
Oh, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, so all I have to say about this one was boo.
Oh, man. Anyway, don't listen to him. The fact that Uro is gone now is fantastic for Auras. It's great. Makes Sultai less amazing. And Sultai was a really rough deck to try to, beat when you're playing Auras, just because all the removal, all the exile effects, and just like the random gaining of life. Every time you're like, man, if they don't gain any life right here, I win. And then they just gain enough life that you can't one-shot them.
Yeah. It's the Uro Hydroid Crisis deck.
I know.
It's never a
So
safe
frustrating. Anyway, so if you're not familiar with Auras, which I don't know why you wouldn't because it's amazing and I love it, there's 2 decks that are fairly different. So you can play Azorius Auras, which is like the Protect the Queen. You're giving it hexproof. You're making 1 creature gigantic. And then there's Orzhov Auras, which is different in the sense that it feels like you want to spread out a lot of you have more resilience, basically. Because in Orzhov Auras, a lot of the things you're trying to do are you're playing like Dead Weight in your sideboard, Mire's Grasp, and you're playing the Eidolon, the black one, that every time a creature dies with an aura that you control, you draw a card. So there's a lot of times when you suit up a creature with a ton of auras and you can just let it die and draw. If you have 2 Eidolons, you could draw like 8 cards and be like, sick. Okay, right. You did it. You killed my Core Spirit Dancer.
It adds a card advantage engine that behaves in a different way. Like, the 2 card advantage engines in Azorius are the same card, basically.
Because in Azorius, it's like there's 2 that are when you play an enchantment, you draw a card, and the other ones are enchantments that say when you hit them, you draw a card. And now instead, this is all about playing auras, and then when creatures with auras die. So you're more okay with the sack deck, I think. The matchup with the sack deck is quite a bit better than the one with in Azorius. So that's why I've been playing a lot of Orzhov auras.
Because Azorius just gets rolled by the stack deck.
It's pretty bad. And you have to make sure you have extra creatures all the time, or you just have to be able to protect it so many different ways. It can be
right. They have so much interaction.
It's really, really hard. Gets rough. Also, Orzhov obviously has its own fatal pushes. It actually doesn't play fatal push, but it plays Thoughtseize.
Yeah, that's the way the main difference I always think about is do you want Thoughtseize or do you want Spell Pierce?
Yeah.
You know, which way are you trying to interact on a different, to prevent your opponent from interacting with
exactly.
You? Is it Thoughtseize or Counterspell?
And I like the Thoughtseize plan a bit more just because Thoughtseize is great because also when you're playing against control, if this is the way you can really get him is take out your removal and just throw in a bunch of duresses, and then you have 8 discard spells, and you're not going to play anything, I guess.
Which your deck draws so many cards that you don't even really run into the usual downsides of doing that.
Exactly. Anyway, I'm pretty. I like the Orzhov one quite a bit. It's more toolboxy.
So just last question I have about this: is there any consideration to playing Esper? Trying to get the best of both worlds?
So the only reason I would feel iffy about Esper is that I want a lower land count. And I think trying to get the other colors is too hard.
I'm imagining take Orzhov auras, replace the basics with pathways, and then put spell pierces into your sideboard or something
just for counterspells.
Just have access to counterspells post board, yeah.
Sure, that'd be interesting.
Maybe it's not worth the hit, but
possibly.
I don't think I'd put any of the blue auras in just because you want your game plan to work without drawing blue, but
and there's 3 blue auras that you play in the other one. I do like that spell pierce plan. That seems actually pretty interesting. But I would probably start first with playing maybe some different protection in it at the moment. Mm-hmm. Anyway, yeah, I think so. This is what I think about Auras. Azorius it's really hard right now. You're gonna have a bad time most of the time.
Out of here.
It's out of here. That deck Thoughtseize immediately crumbles your entire plan. But Orzhov, I think, is top tier. That deck is much different and more resilient to the top decks that are playing right now. You can Thoughtseize their Muxus away. You have enough creatures to play that you can get through all their sacrifice effects if you're playing Junsec. And you can play Claim the Firstborn. Or not Claim the Firstborn, sorry. Claim to Victory. Claim to Victory? Yeah, that's what
Claim
it's
to
called.
Fame?
Claim to Fame. That's what the card's called. I was like, that's not right. There's so many claims. Claim to Fame.
So do you play any red sources at all?
No. I just play it.
You're literally just playing it for claim.
That's it. Because a lot of the time, if they Thoughtseize away your Core Spear Dancer, you claim it for 1, and then you attach Kaya's Ghost Form for 1 on the next turn. You're like,
I feel like I'd be tempted to swap something with a pathway just to give me that weird out that fames.
Just in case you want to. I mean, every once in a while you're like, man, haste would be really helpful right now. But paying 2 for haste would not be helpful. So if I could do it for cheaper and having that liability, it would be. I'm a little iffy about it, but would be interesting. I might try that. Anyway, that's what I have to say about Auras. I'm going to shut up now.
I'm not convinced that it's good, but. I haven't played against the Orzhov version, so I'm still kind of thinking about the Azorius version.
Okay. They definitely feel
Auras is just always one of those things that seems really good until the pros break down the metagame, and then it always seems like they figured out how to hate on it efficiently without committing too much to it, and then it ends up being a bad choice. So you're saying the deck's more resilient, so that could help it. Because that's always its problems, right? It's incidentally hated on by the stuff they want to play anyways. So if you can get the deck to a point where that's not the case, the cards they already want in their sideboard or the cards they already want in their main deck are not good against you, you need specific stuff.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a real metagame presence.
Yeah, because when you're playing black, you get to play 4 copies of Kaya's Ghost Form, and that's the card that the biggest thing I always say in auras in Azorius is that if they exile something, you're screwed, and you can't really get around. It's really difficult to play around Extinction Event. And this way, you're like, sick. Yeah. You can, that's fine. Exile it, they all come back or whatever. I'm drawing cards. Oh, actually, you don't draw cards that way, but that's a huge helpful thing.
But that's exactly the idea of like what I was talking about is the problem with that deck, right? It's like the Sultai player's like, oh, you brought a deck that's bad against Thoughtseizes and Extinction Event? All right, well, looks like I don't even have to sideboard to kick your ass. Like I have like 8 main deck copies of those cards.
This one feels better in those cases, but I do see what you're saying. I just haven't seen as much Sultai. I mean, on the ladder, I guess, but
no, there's no real Sultai anymore because there's no Uro.
But yeah. Anyway, I think Orzhov has top tier material. But yeah, anyway, we should stop talking about it before.
I'll let you have this one.
Thank you. That's all I wanted. That's all I've ever wanted. Let's move on. I don't know how long we talked about that.
How are you feeling? That talk made me thirsty.
I think you're right. I think it's time for a beer break. Ooh, it's a squirter. Oh, got a little bit on my fingers there. Ooh, buddy, this is gonna be cool.
What kind of show are we doing?
Oh, sorry. This is beer. I'm opening a beer. So this is
keep it PG here.
Sorry, my bad. This is the Guilty Remnant Horchata version. Sick.
I got White Lies.
All right. Cheers. Oh my God, what is this?
I tried to keep a straight face when I took my first sip.
Whoa, all right. All right, let's get back into this. Sick. Okay, Jeff, do you want to talk about the next deck that we'll talk about?
Yes, because it's a deck that is near and dear to my heart. It's an archetype I've loved since I was a kid. Elves. What's your take on elves?
We've been seeing elves pop up a lot more because of Elvish War Master from Kaldheim, I believe. The 2-mana 2/2 that gives you another elf once a turn whenever you play another one. And then you can, for 7, pump your whole team and give them Death Touch, which has been super helpful, I think, in this deck because it needed another way to get more elves out that's a better version of other cards. Because they're playing like anything that's like, a 2-mana 2/2 that gives you a 1/1 elf, right? You'd much rather play this card than too many of those. So this is, why we've been seeing a lot more, I believe. Also, if you're playing the mono green version, you can play Faceless Havens if you want to. It's a, fast deck. It makes a lot of creatures and hits you pretty hard, pretty fast if you don't wrath the board. So
yeah, it can really snowball. Right?
Yeah.
Like each elf you add is more than just adding another creature because they all care about how many elves you add or you have. So
it is important to note. So obviously goblins, Krenko makes a ton of goblins when you have more goblins and all that kind of stuff. So this deck has significantly more lords than the other one does. So you could play 12 if you wanted. Most people don't play even that many. They play less because there's so many lords. But you can, and they're all, you can find all of them can you find all of them with Coco? One of them with 4 CMC. I can't remember. Anyway, it's, most of the time you'll see it in a mono green shell with a Collected Company, and they just, they get wide and big so fast.
Now, there's kind of 2 different ways you could go too. You could go all in on Coco and just have everything in your deck be CMC 3 or less. Or you could try to do the Crater Hoof Behemoth thing.
Right.
Where you're trying to get a few elves on board and then generate a ton of mana and go find or just cast Crater Hoof Behemoth. I'd be more inclined to just do the Coco.
Yeah.
I think use Allosaurus, Shepherd, and Elvish War Master as your big mana win cons that pump your team or whatever. But that's what I think. But I haven't played either deck.
Yeah, I've played against. So the one thing about elves that is really frustrating is that it's extremely, extremely wild card heavy. Like you don't just build elves just randomly, right? You have to invest your whole collection into this deck.
For sure.
Which is a huge downside, in my opinion. That's why I've never played it, because, like...
Oh, it's why I haven't played it as well. Because I don't think it's tier 1, spoiler alert, and I don't want to spend that many wild cards on, like, all the jumpstart cards and stuff.
Yeah, there's a bunch of jumpstart stuff, or a couple historic anthology cards, and everything you're playing is rare. It's just... And there's no other reason you'd want a lot of those cards, unless they go in this deck and that's
right, like you're not playing Allosaurus Shepherd and
anything
something
else.
that's not elves.
Yeah. So, and that's like 4 mythics right off the bat. So that's the one part that's like, rough. I do think it's interesting. You can play Golgari elves now. You see that every once in a while, where the mana base, like you were saying in the last one with Oris. So they make the mana base Golgari, but basically they're playing everything is mono green. And then for sideboard, depending on the matchup, they have some black cards that they'll sideboard in, which is pretty funny. Usually, I mean, more like removal and different things like that, and some thought seizes if they're playing against, I believe, control or different things to get wraths out of people's hands. But
or if combo was a thing. Yeah, it's a way to fight wraths too, because this deck is really weak to wraths.
Extremely. Most of the time, you're not even seeing anything that like they're trying to. Most of the game plan is so heavy on making sure you have enough creatures for a collective company to be worth it, or making sure that you kill them fast enough that you're not playing anything to protect your team.
I'm just a bit hesitant to recommend a creature deck that doesn't have an I win button. So then maybe that is the reason to go Crater Hoof, but that's not a very reliable one.
No.
But like if you look at goblins, they just have Muxus. If they resolve Muxus, the game is usually over, and both players have to play kind of assuming that's the case. And so when you play against goblins, you kind of sometimes just let them have stuff because you can't afford to tap out and let them resolve a Muxus or something.
Exactly.
This deck doesn't have quite the same thing. It has Collected Company, which is really powerful, but you don't lose the game, especially since you're probably getting like a 1/1 and a 2/2 or something off it.
Yeah. And Goblins is fortunate that they have Goblin Matron as well to go get their Muxus. So they almost have like 8 copies.
Plus, how does this deck beat Mayhem Devil? I feel like if my opponent has a Mayhem Devil out, my board is just getting incinerated.
I do think that the amount of lords is pretty crazy. And that is extremely helpful because it will take more Mayhem Devil triggers to try to kill, like, obviously a ton of 2/2s or even 3/2s.
But it's never as much as you think, because it's like claim your lord, then sack it and sack something else to ping down your other lord, and then
and then you okay that's true I got you.
It always feels like you're super safe because everything's a 4/4, and then the Rakdos player sacks a few things and you have no board,
and then you're like, oh shit, everything's gone. That is very true. The one thing I do like about this deck is that you can use Collected Company as a combat trick if you're really cheeky. Where you attack with the whole team, and then you Collected Company into 2 lords, and they all get huge. I think that's pretty fun. For
sure. I love, like, ballsy moves like that.
Yeah.
And then you just put in 2 Llanowar elves.
And you're like,
okay, I lose the combat.
All right. There goes all the good elves I had. But I do think that's pretty funny. So I do like that. But
that's why you go up to 12.
Yeah. Though, overall, I don't think this is getting there for me.
I think it's just not quite there yet. If you really want to do tribal, I think Goblins is the better deck.
Yeah, definitely.
But I love elves.
I love elves.
If you want to play it because you love elves, and you don't mind the wild card investment, you don't mind playing kind of a non-top tier deck, then great, go for it. But
absolutely. Seems like a lot of fun, and you're going to, elf ball a lot of people over, so...
And it is powerful enough to win games, exactly.
Exactly. So it's not something that's just like, oh, I did this cool thing with shrines. It's like, no,
It's a 1/1 in 20 matches.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, it will be, it's not top tier. It's definitely out of here, but still seems fun. I would like to play it if I, had all the wild cards I would ever dream of.
If I had like one of those Wizards Infinite accounts,
Exactly.
Then I'd play some elves.
You know what? Elves is a really great deck for any time they do another like free historic week or whatever, where you can play.
Right.
It's a historic event. You can play any deck you want to play.
That's a good call.
Play elves.
I'll try to remember that for the next time they do that.
That's the only reason I ever played goblins, because I don't have those cards either. So I was like, I'll play goblins, see if I love it enough to to actually craft it, and I was like, I like it, but
I crafted goblins before I knew like it was a thing.
that's like the first deck you told me about when we were talking about
I know.
this.
I was like, dude, goblins is busted. Because I thought it was a meme. So I was like, I'm on board to play this meme.
Mm-hmm.
So I crafted my Muxuses and whatever. And now that it's a good deck, I just never play it. Like, ooh, I don't want to be the goblins guy, you know?
I love being that person. It's great. Yeah. That's like playing rogues, and everyone just like hates rogues.
I do love rogues, though.
Yeah. But anyway, moving on. Keep it in historic. Angels.
Yeah, Angels. So this is like pretty much brand new. I've been seeing posts on it on Reddit and Twitter, and it really came about obviously with Kaldheim and all the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of a take on the old white life gain shell.
Yep.
So you still have your Soul Warden. Is that the right name?
Yeah.
Soul Warden kind of stuff.
You have like your Speaker of the Heavens.
Yeah, it's like a white-based creature deck, but then it plays that 2/4 Angel that if you get up to 27 life, it gives your team +2/+2.
Mm-hmm. You're playing the Angel from like M19. That's like white for 1/4, and anytime an Angel enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life.
Resplendent Angel.
Yeah. And they're also playing Collected Company. A lot of times it's like a Celestia Collected Company deck.
Right. Yeah, that should be the first thing we said. The green is pretty much for Collected Company.
And that's about it. Because, you know, it's hard to imagine this, but there aren't very many green angels.
Yeah. You're like, do you mean white-black angels? We do not.
No.
No.
We mean
white-green.
White-green.
And I've seen Bant in order to accommodate Glasspool Mimic as well as Linvala.
Yeah, so the deck is kind of similar as far as like tribal things go, but more in obviously all the anthems are from life gain instead of, you know, actual just creatures. It is funny. First of all, I think this deck might have started from, I think Amy the Amazonian was playing it a lot and was really into angels early on into Kaldheim. I remember seeing that, and I think
she did the same thing did with goblins, where, you know, now that it's good, she's like, whatever.
She's like, yeah, I'm not playing anymore. So that seems possibly that was the first time I remember hearing about someone playing angels. Obviously, Amy plays a bunch of different stuff all the time because she's streaming constantly. So this is probably just one of her things that she likes playing. But I think she did pretty well with it. And then people were like, oh, that seems fun. I'll craft it. And maybe you get a bunch of angels from Kaldheim or whatever, and you want to play it. I do think it's hilarious that it really seems to be popping off right now. When they gave, like, Death's Shadow came into the format, and then people are like, let's play Life Gain Angels.
Yeah.
which is hilarious because it screws that deck a little bit.
Yeah, fun tip. Don't play Abzan to try to accommodate Death's Shadow in this deck because it's going to be pretty bad.
It's going to be very bad, yeah. Don't play your Death Shadow in your Life Gain deck. Oh.
I actually brewed up a similar thing once Kaldheim dropped. I was thinking that 2/4 Angel might be the thing that Life Gain needed. And so I had this Collected Company build. I was a little more on Heliod and Daxos type of thing, so a little more true to the usual mono-white Life Gain shell. But I was playing Resplendent Angel because that card is just so powerful. You know, it's crazy it hasn't found a home somewhere. My concern with the deck, though, is it's still kind of just a dorky creature deck. It has a lot of great interactions. It can gain a ton of life. And then you have a Lord that gives +2/+2. And that's a great Lord, but it's still just a Lord. You know, it's weak to all the stuff that creature decks are usually weak to.
Yep.
And I just don't see it having that. Again, there's no real I win button. And there's no... I don't know, there's nothing in this deck that makes it seem particularly resilient to me to the usual how do we beat creatures game plan. That's why I would almost like to have a Heliod or something in there so you at least have something after a Wrath.
Exactly. That does make sense. Obviously, Collected Company is a little bit helpful because that kind of represents 2 creatures, but yeah, I agree. It's the same thing where you just don't... You're not bringing things back from the graveyard. You're not really trying to protect your stuff. You're just trying to play big things, gain a ton of life, and hit hard. So again, obviously, it's going to win lots of games just from being able to do those things. But there's many ways to disrupt it. And
Yeah, it has the usual downfalls of a tribal deck, I guess. That Goblins just doesn't have.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that, like, the other aggro deck that we've been talking about, Gruul, also has the Oops, I Win button with just Ember cleaving people.
Yeah. So that leads us to say, hey, are we going to play Naya Angels? Do you play Angels with Embercleave thrown in there?
Hey, this is a good deck for it. You go wide and tall.
Yeah. With a life
That's all
flanker.
Embercleave asks of you.
Yeah.
The double red might be tough.
That's the hard part. Double red's hard.
Yeah.
Especially when you're really a white deck that just splashes for Collection Company and Embercleave. Why are you not playing Gruul? Just play Gruul.
And you know, at that point, put Showdown of the Scalds in there.
Yeah, might as well, right? Turns
Cut
into
these stupid angels.
Yeah, you don't need those. Put in some innkeepers. Just play adventures. Yeah, anyway, this is going to be Outta Here for me.
Same.
Yep.
Although I love the deck, and I think it's really cool to see a new deck kind of emerging onto the scene that seems really powerful, but I'm not convinced yet.
Yeah, it's definitely not right up there, but I will keep my eye on it and think about it often. All right, hot button topic. One that everybody's been playing around this last week, trying to figure out how to make it work. And it loses pretty bad to that last deck we just talked about. This is Death Shadow.
I don't know, those Death Shadows get pretty big. They can claim the Firstborn if they want to.
Yeah.
All right, so that being said, does this creature get claimed?
Yes, it gets claimed. Yeah, you're right.
In fact, it's almost the best claim the Firstborn target in the format. It's like you just claim the Firstborn and it probably instantly dies. And if it doesn't, it's probably huge.
Yeah. So then, you pay 1 red to either kill their biggest threat or steal their biggest threat, swing with it, and kill them because they
they have
no life,
not enough life. So that's my biggest concern about Death Shadow and Historic. Historic is like the most claim the Firstborn format of any of them, I think, currently. But it's still a powerful card.
It is. So there are 3. Sam Black was talking on Star City Games this week about the best way to build Death Shadow, and he had 3 different builds. It's basically like Mono Black, Rakdos, or Azorius. Did you play any Death Shadow?
Orzhov, right?
Orzhov, not Azorius. Yeah, so you play Azorius and you splash black for Death Shadow. Sorry.
Play Azorius life gain.
Yeah, so you're playing Sphinx's Rev, and then you also have Death Shadow. No, obviously.
Throw some Revitalize in
there. Just to make, just in case you get hurt a little bit too much. No, Orzhov, Death Shadow. Did you play any Death Shadow this week, first of
all? With or against it?
I guess either. It was mainly with, but,
Okay, then no.
For both. You didn't play either?
No.
Okay.
I didn't craft them, so there's no way I was going to try to crack the Death Shadow clue. But I actually just have unfortunate. I don't know. I haven't run into it.
Yeah, you're probably fine. I've run into it and played it. Just never really clicked, right? It was just always the games I won wasn't because of Death Shadow. It was always other stuff, right? And the games I lost was probably because I was trying to play Death Shadow. It's like, oh, hey, remember how I had 20 life? What if I had 7 and then let you do 7 damage instead?
One of the funniest things I've seen on popping around on Twitter, though, is like someone attacking with Death Shadow and then their opponent has Heliod, Sun Crowned, and Heliod lets you give lifelink to any creature.
Wait, that's hilarious.
So you give it to their Death Shadow, it will kill itself because, like, by definition, your life total and its power must add up to 13. So when it lifelinks, it'll die.
That's pretty funny.
And I saw like someone attacked with 3 Death Shadows. The opponent used Heliod on one of them, and the person just conceded. Well, there goes all 3 of my Death Shadows.
Oh, that's so funny. Would that happen simultaneously? Like,
no, you'd take the damage.
You'd still take the okay, okay.
Die. Yeah.
Man, that's so funny. Anyway, so the reason I was saying that the life gain deck is strong against this one is that it not only plays Death Shadow, but you're also playing Scourge of the Skyclaves, which is like your second Death Shadow, kind of, but harder because it needs both of your life totals to be less than 20.
So that's why you're saying you fold to the life gain deck, because that card is useless.
You're just going to draw 3 of them or at least 4. You're going to draw your whole play set every time you play that deck, just because that's how things work.
That's why I think if this is going to take off, it's going to be in the like Rakdos Arcanist shell, and it's kind of like a side, like a side strategy if they trump your main graveyard hate strategy. Or your main graveyard strategy.
Exactly.
It's a side like plan B that doesn't involve the graveyard.
Exactly. 100% I agree with that. I think the Death Shadow, the Rakdos Arcanist version of the Death Shadow is great because you have 2 plans that way. So Arcanist already has like this toolboxy kind of feel. You can do a bunch of different things. And Death Shadow just becomes like the big creature that you needed. You can give it haste with Claim the Firstborn and with Claim to Fame. Claim to Victory.
Yeah. Classic Claim to Victory.
Everyone knows that card.
I do like the idea of Orzhov for Ranger of Eos, but I don't know. Maybe that card's just too expensive.
I liked
historic competitive play.
Yeah. Obviously, I liked Orzhov because you get to play Adanto Vanguard. And that way, anytime you have Death Shadow in your hand, you're like, I can just play it. You can always play your Death Shadow if you care enough.
If you care enough. I was just about to say, if you're bold enough. Fatal Push. Ow!
Oh, I just took 8 damage.
And I was saying last week that we don't have any instant speed ways to lose life, but I have since realized that we do have Castle Lock Thwain. So that is a way to do it. It's an expensive way to do it because it costs 4 mana, essentially.
Yeah, but you do get to draw a card.
Yeah.
So there's some good stuff. I do like, obviously, bringing it back from the graveyard with all the different ways you can do that and all those fun things.
Luris, Agadeem's Awakening, I guess, is the dream because it also loses you life as a land.
Yeah. So that's pretty great. Luris can be a little awkward when you have to block with Luris.
Because it has lifelink.
Yeah. And so you're like, okay, I want to kill their Planeswalker, but if I gain life, I'm going to lose my Death Shadow or whatever.
But that's the thing, though. The deck, like, Death Shadow decks are almost by design, like, really challenging to pilot because you're always trying to walk this line of losing your own life because that's what your deck does. But you never want to put yourself within harm's way. It just feels like every decision you make could lose you the game, and you're making a ton of decisions. So it's just, we won't know if Death Shadow is good or if we're just bad.
Yeah. Absolutely. With that being said, Death Shadow is absolutely out of here. That deck is...
Yeah, I'll let someone else figure it out before I craft them. But
until someone...
I'm going with Outta Here. I just think there's easier ways to get similarly powered cards.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Death Shadow is that much better, or even better, really, than, what's going on in Jund Sacrifice, or even is it better than Ember Cleave, or, all the format pillars are less work and are on a similar or greater power level.
Exactly. So why work so hard, right? Let's just stop working so hard.
Unless you enjoy it. If you love playing the Death Shadow style, you could probably make a deck that is functional.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, Adanto Vanguard with Font of
Agony.
2 mana.
Yeah, I just don't want to have to put Adanto Vanguard in my historic deck.
What are you talking about? It's a fantastic
Isn't
card.
it like a common or something?
It's an uncommon.
Oh, my mistake.
Yeah. It's like twice as hard to find. Come on.
Yeah. It would have been too good in draft at commons.
Absolutely. Actually, no. It was pretty irritating when... anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's move on. Let's get into this next final section of our top tier out of here segment. So these are the decks that could become a thing / could become a thing again or just haven't really got there yet. So these are kind of more like, they're not necessarily a deck, but it's like ideas about stuff, kind of.
Yeah, like maybe predictions.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call this.
I don't know what this is. Is this still top tier out of here? I don't know. We're talking about historic, and that's all that matters.
We're going to be talking about like 5 decks or more at once.
Yeah, I'm drinking horchata beer. It's here we go.
We don't know what the hell's going on.
What's going on? I don't know.
But the first one I just had to put on here because I feel like one of these is definitely going to be a thing.
Yeah.
So what I want to talk about now is monocolor aggro. And I could see any of the 5 colors being the best for this, you know? But my thinking is that Faceless Haven is such a good card for aggro decks that people are going to try it. And I think it's good enough that one of these decks, whether it's mono red, mono white, mono green have all been popular in the past, and even mono blue, people love that. And mono black is like mono black aggro is a good deck in Pioneer and stuff. So I just feel like one of these monocolored aggro decks is going to kind of rise to the top as the pure aggro, because Gruul is pretty aggressive, but it's still kind of leaning a bit more mid-rangey. And I think there's going to be a deck that
can go underneath.
All-out aggro. It's going to be the fastest deck in the format, and it's going to rely on Faceless Haven to give it reach.
Well, Vigilance, but whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, I definitely agree that Faceless Haven belongs somewhere in here, and I've been seeing people put them in their elf decks and their goblin decks and different. Well, maybe not goblins, but anyway, just any monocolor deck. You're like, you know what? All snow, put Faceless Haven.
Right.
Let's see what
if there's slapping it in existing decks, and then there's building a deck.
Yeah.
With this in mind, kind of thing,
With that being said, it feels like red is really great with that, because if you're playing Snowlands, Frostbite is just a really great 1-drop, and the other colors don't have those great 1-drops for that.
Red also just has Embercleave,
yeah,
which is always gonna kind of tilt the scales in its favor, I think.
So it seems hard to make a case for other colors. I do obviously I think slapping it into decks is perfectly fine, and you should definitely do that.
Oh yeah, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
what I'm saying, just for this, what we're talking about right now, I'm talking about a Faceless Haven deck.
Yeah. Not
a deck that's might as well play Faceless Haven.
I do think the mono blue aggro needs more punch, and they kind of run into I have 3 1/1 flyers in the air that have curiosity on them. But
right, and their problem tends to be flooding out, whereas this gives them something to do with the mana.
So, and having a 4/3 blocker on the ground is also pretty great too. So,
and the vigilance matters, right? Because then you might hold up a counter spell.
Yeah. So, that seems kind of nice. That does feel like you're just throwing it into that deck, but I think you could use it pretty nicely. You
could put the Cancrix in there, if you wanted to make it more snow themed.
Totally. Put the Cancrix in there. Why not?
Yeah.
They definitely care about that stuff. No, I really think that's all you'd want. Don't play the 1-drop snow creature, because you're going to waste so much mana into that thing. Right? Or
maybe actually could be good. I forgot about that guy. Ascendant Spirit.
Yeah.
Ascendant Spirit.
Because it does draw you a card. It can give itself draw you a card when it hits and it starts to fly. So
I think that's pretty good in the mono blue deck, because they always want to be holding up a counter spell, and then the way you tend to beat them is make them waste their mana. And this is I'll just level up this thing.
This is a good bridge, because usually the way that they use that mana is to draw cards off of the Spirit Pirate for 4.
Right.
And this mitigates for 2 and 3 in the meantime. So actually, I
definitely think the Spectral Sailor is better.
Yeah.
But this is maybe copies 5 through 6 of that kind of thing.
Interesting. Actually, no. I started saying that I didn't like this card, but maybe it seems kind of fun.
Maybe there's some. Next thing you know, Zach's playing mono blue every week.
So the best deck is mono blue. Obviously, here's all the reasons.
Yeah,
why.
we called it.
Top tier for sure.
I talked about Ascendant Spirit.
Yeah,
my money is on mono red to be
the
deck that emerges here that makes the best use of Faceless Haven. But like I said, any color, mono green has had success in the past. Just kind of big beatdown. I think they make the worst use of Faceless Haven because they already have such big creatures.
Bigger creatures.
They already have ways to use their mana. But it's still and they also have, green as some of the casting costs.
That's true. Yeah, so that does make it kind of hard.
But it's still just a great card.
Having a creature that can dodge Wraths in that deck is never going to be bad, I think. So anyway, I don't really know if we should... I don't really have a top tier out of here. That was just kind of a nice discussion.
I'm going to say like top tier in the sense that there is going to be a Faceless Haven monocolored aggro deck
Gotcha.
that becomes a mainstay in the format.
For sure. Okay, definitely. I feel that. Moving on. Yorion. So
Okay.
Yorion, like you said, Yorion piles, which I think is a correct way of talking about this deck, which is just, hey, cards that would be good with Yorion, we got to get 80.
I don't know what the colors are.
You know, it could be kind of anything. It's got to be blue or white. But
yeah, I kind of suspect we're talking either Sultai or Abzan here.
Yeah.
But it could be 4-color, whatever. Honestly, just for binding the old gods is just one of the best things to be doing with Yorion.
Totally.
My reasoning is that with Uro gone, if you want to be the slow, grindy, mid-range player, Yorion is now the best thing you can be doing.
Yeah.
I think Uro was kind of keeping Yorion out of the format because Uro is plays in similar decks and is better and does not synergize with Yorion. Like, you don't want to blink your Uro because it'll die. So Uro's just kind of the better thing to be doing. But with that gone, now Yorion can step in as, hey, if you want to... It can be the oppressive card that's like, hey, if you want to play this style of game, you have to choose me. You know, like... and I think that's going to happen. It does take a while to build a Yorion deck because it's 80 cards. And so I think that's why we're not really seeing it yet. But I think people are going to work on them, figure out, is Sultai better? Is Abzan better? Is it 4-color? You know, and they're going to find the Yorion pile that reigns supreme.
Yeah, totally.
But I just have a hard time imagining. Like, Yorion is one of the best cards in the format, and nobody is playing it. So that seems like something's wrong.
Definitely. We'll definitely see something, and whatever it is, it'll probably be pretty good.
I've seen people trying out Abzan lists with, like, Thraben Inspector on one, just as a dorky one-drop that plays well with Yorion.
Exactly. That is true. Yeah, I do like that Thraben Inspector thrown in.
And they really got juiced by, like, Elspeth's Conquer's Death is a really powerful card, but there are some matchups where it's so bad. And so it's pretty awkward, and I think kind of upgrading that to Binding the Old Gods is huge, because it curves right into Yorion and plays a similar role of being the big catch-all removal spell that works well with Yorion. And it even ramps you, which I think is a little better than taxing your opponent.
Definitely. I 100% agree on that, because that's what your whole deck is kind of already wanting to do. It's going to be around.
I'm going top tier on there will be a build of Yorion that becomes a tier 1 deck. Hey, who knows? Maybe even Sultimatum
comes in. I could definitely see that. That deck is frustrating in standard, and you have more choices.
It gets some upgrades. Imagine if that deck could play Growth Spiral. It'd be annoying as hell.
Yeah. Think of all the different ways you can force your opponent to not have a real choice.
Yeah.
It's great. Next up, we have combo decks / that Paradox Engine deck that we saw a while ago that everyone got super excited about for that Arena Open. We've basically seen this like Paradox Engine version of this combo deck. We also have like a Neoform one as well. But as far as combo goes, we don't have a ton of different options.
It's Kethis.
There's Kethis combo, that's right. I really think I have never seen Kethis combo ever. I've
really
read lists about it. I've just never.
Brian Braunduin play it in that big historic tournament?
Yeah, and I didn't watch him at all, and he.
That's because he did not do.
He did not do very well, and
not good.
that's why you don't see it on the ladder. No one plays.
To his credit, though, we're not ragging on him. He said going into the event, he knows the deck is bad.
He just likes that deck.
Likes it.
That's fine. Yeah. That's great. I do that all the time. I still play Azorius. It's fun.
Yeah. I think all of the combo decks that ever saw any success, their success stems from Uro Titan of Nature's Wrath. So, which is, like a lot of decks, are good because they have Uro in them. Like, the combo never involves Uro, but Uro helps you against aggro decks because it gains you life and ramps you towards your combo. And it, just gives you a great plan B. So if your combo just isn't coming together, you can just, I'll just win the game by casting Uro. Winning the good old-fashioned way by attacking with 6/6s that are outrageously good. And so once you take away that plan B, this card that did everything, it helped you get back into the game by gaining you life. It helped you find your combo piece by drawing you cards. It helped you ramp so that you could play your combo sooner, and it gave you a plan B. Without that, all of these decks are just not top tier anymore. So I don't know, unless there's the combo has to be pretty broken for a combo deck to be good, or it has to be a Splinter Twin type thing where you're kind of a mid-rangey / control deck that plays a pretty good game and then has an oops, I win. Oh, I drew these 2 cards, I win.
Yeah.
Which, I would love to see that.
Yeah, I'm fine with
that. Kind of deck popped up. If it's like a Valky thing, just somehow cheating out Tybalt. I think it's going to revolve around that. But
I did see someone was playing, just this, it was this weird combo. So it was like, a card I'd never seen before, but it was like from...
Is it Escape to the Winds?
Yes. It was Escape. Yes, you're right.
I don't know if that's the exact name I was trying to...
Or like Release.
But it's the weird card that's like, it exiles something, and then the player who owns it can cast it for free.
Yes, that one.
And it's an instant.
It's like 2
I loved that as
blue.
soon as I saw it. So I play Valky, and then on turn 3, on their end step, I just exile it, and then I cast it as Tybalt on my turn.
That got me a lot. I was like, what is this card? I've never seen this card. What is this combo?
It's so weird. It was in like Ixalan or something.
Yeah. Actually, no, I did see a pretty interesting combo deck that was Yorion. Okay, so here we go. So it was Jeskai Yorion, and I think they're playing all non-creature spells except for Locust God, Sage of... Shit, what was that card? It's from Eldraine. It's like a blue uncommon that whenever a non-human creature enters the battlefield, you get to draw a card and discard a card. And then they're playing that red...
Isn't that card like Draft Chaff?
Yeah, right? But anyway, so it combos well because there's one kind of transmogrify card that basically... It's from Kaladesh. It's like red, X.
Oh, Indomitable Creativity.
Yes, Indomitable Creativity. And then you exile 2 creatures or artifacts, and then you go through your deck until you get creatures and you put them on the battlefield. And those are the 2 creatures you get because they're the only ones in your deck. And as soon as they come into play, you draw a card, discard a card. Locust God puts a creature into play. You draw a card, discard a card. You do the whole thing until you have enough locusts that you have haste and attack and win.
Okay.
So that ended up working because I had no idea what they're doing. Of course, after that, I'm like, Thoughtseize this card. This is gone. All right.
Did you side in your fogs so that they decked themselves and now they're...
I mean, the thing about the Sage is that they can, it's a May, obviously, so they just like stop when they have your life total.
Yeah, otherwise it would kill them.
Immediately. And so I was waiting. I was like, are they just going to die? I was like, oh, wait, no, they have a ton of cards. Also, you can draw 40 cards and still have a bunch left in a Yorion deck.
I love it. Yeah.
So I was actually pretty impressed.
But combo decks suck against Thoughtseize if the person playing Thoughtseize knows how the combo works.
Exactly. So then, game 2, I'm like, all right, all my duresses, take out all my removal. Everything is just get rid of this one card. I'll be fine.
No Indomitable Creativity.
Yep. Done. So anyway, that was a cool combo deck that I saw. Got to give them a good nice, and they're like, thanks, as they're drawing their entire deck. I was like, that's pretty sweet. You can kill me. I'll let you kill me. It's cool.
Yeah. I'll let you do your thing.
Yeah, it's. I've never seen this before, so that's pretty sweet. So, shout out to whoever that was. I don't remember your name, but it was sweet. Anyway, but as far as combos go altogether, no way. Not loving it.
Combos are out of here.
Not definitely out of here. Not my style, but also I just don't think there's a strong enough one at the moment. That one was really cool.
Well, I mean, we'd be remiss not to mention the Harmless Offering combo.
The Harmless... Oh, of course. Yeah, sorry. The Harmless... Yeah.
Brand new combo deck, thanks to Historic Anthology 4.
Yes, that I haven't seen yet. That's a better one, because that's only 2 cards, so...
I saw one on Twitter that was the Valky with... it was Grixis, and it was Valky with Escape to the Winds, and then also Harmless Offering and Demonic Pact. It's just 4 of each, and then it just had like 4 Thoughtseize, 4 Counterspell, 4 like... I was like, I love this build. It's just like dorky combos.
Yeah.
And then good blue, black, and red cards.
That sounds pretty sweet. I do kind of like that.
And it was all fours down the line. For this.
That's how I build decks. How am I supposed to know which ones I shouldn't have? 4 of everything. They're all good.
Yeah. Oh, I only have 3 of those. Okay, 3 of those.
Yeah. I didn't want to spend any wild cards besides the combo pieces. Okay, cool. Yeah, actually, we are now down to our last deck we're going to talk about for the evening.
Yeah. We're wondering, what happened to Ramp?
Yeah.
I mean, you banned the best card. We know what happened to it, but... We were thinking in particular there's the colorless ramp deck.
Mm-hmm.
But then also just thinking there's a lot of good ramp stuff in the format in general. Like all of the good ramp cards are still here. And ramp payoffs are still here. You just lost Uro, But your deck was already ahead by so much, Can't you just still play ramp?
I definitely think you can. But the thing is, I've seen so much of this colorless ramp deck, and I'm not extremely sure why.
People love that deck, though.
They do.
Especially on the ladder. That's a ladder deck.
And I don't know why.
I don't get it really either. I think Ulamagging people is fun, I guess.
Yeah. And it feels fairly fair, I guess. I mean, so that deck is running all the good ramp artifacts, sorry.
Yeah.
So any like
good a little bit liberally here too, because it plays some bad ones.
Yeah, exactly.
But like it's the Mind Stone deck.
Yeah, Mind Stone. They're playing obviously Ugin and Ulamog, and then they're playing Golos, and Golos will go grab the 1 gold land that you can pay.
Cascading Cataracts?
Yes, that sounds right. Cascading Cataracts. So you tap it for Wooburg using your mana, and then you throw that into your Golos.
Activate Golos.
Yeah. Which is its own little, combo there. Awesome, I guess, and then play different things. It's good. Like, I don't think it's like amazing, but it will definitely kill you.
I just like that the deck is called Mono Black Colorless, because that does like describe what it is.
Yeah, well, because now a lot of people are playing all like snow-covered swamps with it, and they're playing wrath effects in black for it, and like blood in the snow, so they can bring things back from the graveyard if you thought seized away.
Blood in the snow definitely just doesn't seem good enough.
It's strange. I think it's whatever. They are playing Cold Steel Heart that just got added. First time I saw that, I was like, oh, and they're like, choose black. I'm like, oh, okay. What?
Huh.
Interesting. Yeah. But yeah, I just think it's not super great. I mean, wishing for things is fun with your Karn and everything. You get your Platinum Angel out and blah, blah. But
right. I never thought this deck was particularly good when I played against months ago, when it first became a thing.
Yeah.
But I never thought it was overtly terrible. They had game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is a deck that just has polarizing matchups. Some decks it's just going to beat up, and some decks are going to have... It's going to look like it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's going to be the easiest match ever.
It's like, oh, you played 2 Mind Stones and a Hedron Archive? Cool. Good job.
And to me, that means it can never really be a mainstay of the format when the matchups are so polarizing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like Tybalt's. It's like that Tybalt's Trickery deck where it's like, yeah, either you win or you don't. I mean, like, obviously that's more of a coin flip, and people were freaking out about it when it came out. I was like, no, it's not fantastic. People will get bored of it. Right. It will stop.
Plus, like, people need to stop playing decks that are just incidentally really bad against Thoughtseize. It's just like, everybody's playing Thoughtseize, okay? It's the best card in the format, so maybe we should
but this one
try to make our decks Thoughtseize resistant.
This one plays Thoughtseize, so...
Yeah.
There you go.
True.
Because it doesn't have a 1-drop to play. So you play your Thoughtseize, turn 2 Mind Stone. Boom.
Yeah.
That's a combo right there.
Yeah. Combo.
It's because, so you play your Snow-Covered Swamp, you play Thoughtseize. The next turn, you play the colorless Lifeland, gain 2 life, play Mind Stone.
Oh,
now you're back to 20.
Now I'm convinced.
That's pretty good.
Now I'm convinced.
Right? So your Thoughtseize didn't actually cost you anything. So
right.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm just, saying, watch out.
Yeah.
But no, this is, I'm going to say this deck's, we're going to see it, but it's out of here. I'm not.
Colorless ramp out of here for sure. Just as far as ramp decks in general go, I think this will probably tie in with the Yorion decks we were talking about earlier. There's probably like a Yorion ramp deck that's going to end up being the best thing to be doing with Yorion.
Yeah.
So I think ramp will be back. It just has too many good cards. You know, we have Growth Spiral, Cultivate, Binding the Old Gods, Hour of Promise. We have stuff to ramp into if you want with Ulamog at the very top and basically anything along the way. So it just feels like the ramp spells are so good still with Urogan. I mean, I didn't even mention Nissa, right? Who's both. That there's just going to be a ramp deck at some point, and it probably will be a Yorion deck as well.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
But colorless ramp, out of here.
Definitely out of here. You know what else is out of here? My beer.
My beer? Oh!
Yes, made it. I need another beer, so we should go to last call.
Perfect segue.
3, 2, 1. Ho-ho! White Lies for the win. I got you.
You got me.
Perfect. So we both picked mine, of course. Why would we not? It's so good.
I'll let you have this one.
Yeah, you definitely did. You picked a like that's the kind of beer that I would bring. So I'm surprised by you. It's really
I love white stouts. So I saw it, and then there was the white stout, but weirder. So
yeah, so might as well try the weirder one.
Yeah.
Anyway, cheers. White Lies.
All right. So somehow I always forget.
What?
But do we start with the winner or the loser usually?
We never decide that. We just do whatever we
decide
want.
It in the moment, but probably decide the same thing every time. So
basically.
Sounds like we're doing a bit, but we're just forgetful.
But before we get right into the rating system, let's explain it quickly for the newcomers who haven't been here before. So, each week, obviously, we rate beers on a scale of bronze to mythic, which, of course, is the tiers in Arena. Shocker. What? So, a quick overview. Bronze equals trash. That's just trash beer. That's not great. We don't like to the point where you don't want to finish.
No offense to you bronze players out there.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a bronze player, but being a bronze beer is like actual trash. Like this was left in the sun for 13 days, and I don't even want to finish this. Silver is like macro brews or just nothing is really that exciting going on. You're like, oh, okay, take it or leave it. I don't really care. Gold is this is fine, and I'll drink it, but I just won't think about it. Platinum is this is solid. I'm definitely going to pick up more of this at some point. This will be like a mainstay. Diamond is this is exceptional, really great. I will recommend this to Jeff or my friend. And then Mythic is absolutely the best beer. I would recommend this to a stranger at the store who picked it up. You're like, hey, I don't want to butt in, but like you should really get that because it really will change your life. So.
Thanks for saying you would recommend it to Jeff or your friends.
Well,
appreciate that one.
It could be your friend or the person that you do a podcast with that your acquaintance is with.
Yeah. Those don't overlap in the Venn diagram. There's nothing in the middle there. People I do podcasts with.
It's just two
friends.
circles, yeah. Anyway, Jeff, should we start with the one that we chose, or should we start with the one that we didn't choose? Let's start with the one we didn't choose.
Okay.
Let's do
I was going to say the same thing, so I'm glad you went that way.
Wow. See, people, we think alike.
Right there. Podcast folk. Podcast acquaintances.
Podcasters. Podcast acquaintances.
So the Guilty Remnant Horchata. I actually thought it was pretty good. It kind of shocked me at first. Like, you pour it, and then you just smell cinnamon.
Yeah.
And then you drink it, and it's very spiced flavoring.
Yes.
The thing I liked about it was, what I like about white stouts is that they kind of mess with your mind because they taste like stouts, but then they look like lagers.
Yeah, totally.
And that's something I really enjoy. And this kind of even adds to that because it's now like a spiced, like you don't know what you're drinking, but it doesn't look like what's in the cup for sure.
Anything like that. I was so thrown off. It was, definitely strange. So as your first horchata experience, what did you think? Like, You know, you haven't actually had
Yeah.
regular horchata before, so
Yeah, I like it. I think the reason I didn't choose it is just that I don't love cinnamon. And so when cinnamon is like the most prominent thing,
interesting.
I'm not really usually going to love it. But this one I found like the first couple of sips, I was almost like, oh, am I going to finish this beer? And then while I was halfway, I was like, actually, I like it now. It just took me some time to kind of adjust.
Yeah, it definitely yes, it takes some time to adjust to.
Right.
I thought it was fine. I didn't love it. It's now I do like cinnamon, but like horchata is not my favorite thing overall. Now, obviously, it doesn't taste just like that. The lactose didn't come through as much as we've seen in other beers that we've tried. It wasn't like,
For
whoa,
sure, yeah.
so creamy and so everything. I definitely thought it was super interesting and what a cool idea. Like, and I've seen a couple other breweries do similar things to this. But this might be the reason why I won't try the other ones because I was like, you know, it was fine.
As someone who has tried it before, would you have gotten like horchata from this if they didn't tell you?
Yeah,
Like if it wasn't written on the can, if you just took a sip of this, do you think you'd be like, oh,
I can
getting
taste
a bit
this.
of a...
I can definitely taste the spices. I wouldn't
Right.
necessarily. I might jump closer to pumpkin or no, maybe not even pumpkin, but like baked good kind of thing, closer to the cinnamon, like you were saying. But to be fair, I'm never gonna like taste something and think, oh, this tastes like horchata, you know, because
That's fair, yeah.
but maybe
You're
like
not a horchata expert.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of it, but like, I could see some churro-ness ish, but which is kind of what I think horchata is like. But yeah, I don't even know. I think I'm just gonna give it gold. I didn't love it. I would definitely like drink. I would try another one, or you know, maybe in a couple years I'll drink it again to be like maybe I was wrong, but I'm not running to go grab more or anything.
For me, it's kind of on that border between gold and platinum, and I wonder like how much of that is just that I know that Blood Brothers knows what they're doing for making beers, so I'm kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
I give them platinum, I think I enjoyed it at a gold level.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed it at a gold level. I'm glad it was a small can and not a big one. That's the thing. That's what I'm gonna
Right.
say. Great. So White Lies. I want to hear your thoughts
Okay.
about this beer.
So this is a sour from Blood Brothers, and Blood Brothers makes their sours kind of juicy, closer to juice than to beer is the thing I always say, and I don't like that when I go for a sour. But I think they kind of messed with my mind a bit here by saying it, by the fact that they added Riesling. Because now I'm like, it's not closer to juice, it's closer to wine,
Yes.
which I'm kind of okay with. You know, if it's just like a wine beer mix, then to me that feels more acceptable than just something that's called a beer that tastes like juice. you know?
Yes.
And it's all just kind of mental, right? Because it's probably the same, tastes the same. But I do kind of get that wine. Like, it tastes like wine and not like juice.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It definitely has that feel to it. I love this beer. From our criteria, I'll say what I think about it in a bit. Oh man, it's so hard. Anyway, but I think this is like, I wasn't a huge sour beer drinker until I moved to Toronto 4 years ago, and I started to drink a lot more. There's a ton of sours here, and I think it's also kind of on the rise since I kind of got here. But I think this was probably one of the ones I was like, man, this is different than other sours I've tasted, and I really like it that way. And I was from California, so I really liked anything that had any influence in wine. So the Riesling was really like, oh, that's a really cool thing that they did. And you can definitely taste that it has that wine partnership.
I also think White Lies is just a great name for a beer that is a beer, but it tastes like wine, and it's white wine.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh,
So it's like kind
I gotta give
of,
them
it's
points for
lying,
that,
but like, you know, it's a little white lie. It's fine.
Exactly.
Also, if you look, I didn't say this before, but if you look at the label, it's two people shaking hands, and there's a snake coming out of one
There's a
sleeve
snake that comes out of one, yeah.
and biting the other one. So it also has this
Feels
weird.
like more than a white lie, but
Yeah, that has like white lies, like white men lying. But it's what it feels to me.
I
so,
see.
so it has like multiple levels, like this. The name of the beer actually changed my outlook on life. Just kidding. But anyway, but no, this is a hard one because I really like this, and I'll probably I'm gonna give it Mythic because I'm probably gonna tell people this is the beer that I'm like, go to Blood Brothers and drink White Lies.
Okay, we got a Mythic, folks.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. The other thing I want to say is the hop choice I really thought was excellent. It's El Dorado, right?
Yeah.
It's El Dorado, yeah, which normally I don't actually love. But because it's kind of like woodsy almost.
Mm-hmm.
But I think here it works really well because that like planty, woodsy flavor gives me a bit of
Like a vine?
vines
Yeah.
from the
Yeah,
vine.
that's cool.
And I just think that's like it's clearly well thought out. It's well crafted in that sense. I was gonna give it Diamond.
Yeah.
Because it's still not like the type of sour that I tend to gravitate towards, but I really appreciate the thought that went into brewing this, and it tastes good. So
Yeah.
it's hard to give it much lower than that.
This is the beer that I'm like, if I'm getting Blood Brothers, I'm gonna get this every single time.
It's your go-to, right?
Yeah. It's the reason that I went to the brewery in the first place. All that. So I have a special kind of emotional connection with it, like that. But I also think it tastes great, and it's not every day you get Riesling grapes in your beer, so pretty fun.
Right.
Anyway, so that's what we feel about those beers. But Jeff, I think it is closing time, unfortunately. Womp womp.
Oh.
Shoot.
You'll have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot. Actually, you probably can wherever you are because you're listening to this on your headphones. So whatever. Yeah. But if you want to talk to us about how our episodes are too long or not long enough, you can reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, you can't tell us those things on MTG Arena, but you might be able to play against us and give us some sweet emotes or stickers. Our username is Arena Regulars Podcast.
Hey! Also, if you want to personally attack me for any views I had on this episode, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Zulberg, Zeulberg. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Yeah, if you want to tell me about how you think I was right and Zach was wrong, you can find me over at Blues Brews MTG on Twitter. Or you can find me on Twitch streaming sometimes. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks in a row that I haven't. But I do plan on getting back to it, and I plan on streaming some historic over at Blues Brews at Twitch.
Absolutely. And please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere that you listen to your podcast. It makes a huge difference for us. This has been the Arena Regulars,
reminding you to stop playing decks that are bad against Thoughtseize.
Good night. All right, that's fine.